welcome to Justice. I'm Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. Congressman Ron DeSantis is here, plus conservative commentator Michelle Malkin, Corey Lewandowski, and a special Olympic version of Street Justice. But first, my opening statement. There is a cleansing needed in our FBI and Department of Justice. It needs to be cleansed of individuals who should not just be fired, but who need to be taken out in handcuffs. Now, there have been times in our history when corruption and lawlessness were so pervasive that examples had to be made. This is one of those times. Handcuffs for Andrew McCabe, Deputy Director of the FBI, the man at the hub protecting Hillary and attempting to destroy Trump. Now, according to Senate Judiciary Chair Grassley, and confirmed, being investigated by the Department of Justice for seeking money for his wife's campaign to run with Hillary from her bagman, Terry McAuliffe, chairman of her presidential campaign and board member of her Clinton Foundation, that slush fund. All the while, McCabe was investigating both Hillary and McAuliffe. Grassley says McCabe, and we've confirmed this as well, is also being investigated by the Office of Special Counsel for violating the Hatch Act, which prohibits political activity by federal employees, for using his government email account to distribute contents in his wife's campaign. And at the height of political chutzpah, he actually sends his FBI resume to McAuliffe before he and his wife meet to grovel for Clinton cash. There are also photos of him campaigning for his wife. Now, McCabe is also being investigated by the EEOC on the complaint of a female FBI agent. All investigations have been going on for almost a year, while McCabe still works for our FBI and collects a check from us. Handcuffs, too, for Peter Strzok, a high-ranking FBI agent working under McCabe, the one who actually changed the language from grossly negligent to extremely careless in Jim Comey's exoneration of Hillary Clinton. And also with the hub, Strzok worked with Christopher Steele, the one who wrote the Trump dossier, created, bought and paid for to destroy Donald Trump by the Clinton campaign. Reports are that Strzok was the one who signed the application for a FISA warrant, which was then used to surveil Trump's campaign, which was then used to illegally unmask Americans. But of course, the new director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, refuses to give up that information. And Strzok, after being loaned from the FBI to Mueller's team, almost one and the same at this point, is removed from Mueller's team because of anti-Trump text messages to his mistress, a lawyer for the FBI. And to show you how screwed up Washington is, they send an FBI married guy having an affair with an FBI lawyer to work in human resources, as if he's qualified to counsel on how to conduct yourself at work. And by the way, if that's the only reason Strzok was demoted, why wasn't she demoted? Maybe because that's not the only reason. And Bruce Orr, Assistant Deputy Attorney General, another beaut. He secretly meets with the guys from Fusion GPS, the ones who received money indirectly from the Clinton campaign to write the fake dossier bought and paid for by the Clinton campaign to destroy Trump. And James Comey, the one who exonerated Hillary before the investigation was completed. The man who, with one question, could have indicted Hillary. Did you send United States classified information on an unsecure server? If she says yes, that's a crime. And if she says no, that's a lie. You remember Comey, the one who conducts himself in a holier-than-thou manner. People at the FBI called him Cardinal Comey behind his back. So political, so corrupt. He decides to take over the Attorney General's job to announce No charges against Hillary. The one warning Hillary Clinton at every stage what he's looking for: her iPhone, her laptop, her server, giving her the chance to delete 33,000 emails and then permission to obstruct justice with a hammer, bleach bit, and a delete button. Now, you remember when Comey reopened Hillary's case in October before the election, right after he exonerated her? Everyone started saying, look, this guy is so fair. Folks, he wasn't being fair. The NYPD was going to out him when they found classified information on dirtbag pervert Anthony Weiner's laptop from Uma and Hillary and Robert Mueller. In a year with a team dedicated to destroying Donald Trump, he can't come up with one piece of evidence. And as hard as the mainstream media tries to make stuff up, like Brian Ross with ABC, CNN, Bloomberg, Reuters, and the Washington Post all in 1 week, they have nothing. So this week, Christopher Wray, the new FBI director, refuses to provide Congress with information.
Did Peter Strzok help produce and present the application to the FISA court to secure a warrant to spy on Americans associated with the Trump campaign?
Congressman, I'm not prepared to discuss anything about a FISA process in this setting.
What was presented to the FISA court?
I do not believe that I can legally and appropriately share a FISA court submission with this committee.
In truth, nothing prohibits the FBI from giving Congress that information. So why is Wray punting? Because a politically contrived dossier used by the FBI to generate surveillance on Trump by the opposing party in a presidential election spells disaster. For the better part of the last year, you and I have watched together as members of Congress beat their chest every time they have a hearing. Well, I, for one, am tired of investigations, politicians posturing. Something more has to be done. The stench coming out of the Justice Department and the FBI is like that of a third world country where money and bullies and clubs decide elections. It all started when Cardinal Comey destroyed our FBI with political hacks to set events in motion to destroy the Republic because they didn't like the man we chose to be our president. Well, it's time to take them out in cuffs. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram, # Judge Jeanine. And here with reaction to my opening statement and all of the developing news of the day, conservative columnist and CRTV host, Michelle Malkin. All right, good evening, Michelle. Your thoughts on my open?
Judge, I think you're absolutely right that there needs to be a root and branch removal of this cesspool of crap weasels that's infested the highest echelons of all of our law enforcement agencies and, unfortunately, many of our national security apparatuses as well. And
so why isn't it happening? Michelle, why isn't it happening?
Yes. Well, I think that you put your finger on it, Judge, when you talked about some of the fecklessness and, unfortunately, the ineffectiveness of so many of these House investigations that have not produced actual results. And whether it's marching some of these crap weasels out in handcuffs or simply getting rid of the corruption that is a legacy of Obama,
but who's going to march them out, Michelle? If Jeff Sessions isn't going to march them out, Christopher Wray still allows Andrew McCabe to work under him. And you've got this guy Strzok. I mean, really, the guys working in HR were paying him while he had an affair and is anti-Trump? I mean, what needs to be done? Does Rod Rosenstein need to go? He's the guy who apparently Senator Grassley's been sending letters to for almost a year. He won't even answer them.
Yeah, so I think that this falls on the Republican leadership in Washington, D.C., which, of course, is so much of an oxymoron. And then to the extent that our president can exercise his executive authority here, I think he needs to do so. Again, I think it's very important to understand, Judge, that this is a legacy of the Obama years. And where there is culture of corruption smoke, there is culture of corruption fire. And you've just laid out that we've got an inferno setting these institutions on fire. And I think, you know, I understand that it's incredibly frustrating for the public. But right now, the best thing that we can do is shed as much exposure and sunlight on it. And a lot of people are waiting for this Inspector General's report to come out.
But you know what, Michelle, I don't mean to interrupt you. Look, I was a DA, I was a prosecutor, I ran an office, okay? I don't need some outside guy to tell me when they're doing things illegally. That's what I do for a living. I'm a prosecutor.
Yes.
I need to wait for someone to tell me it's against the law. It is against the law. It's prima facie against the law what they're doing.
Well, so then the question is, Judge, who's going to bring these charges forward? Because the frustration, again, is that you've got the very crap weasels that are responsible for the corruption investigating themselves. And that is the problem. And the other problem is when you have these inspectors general who've been put in place in prior administrations and defanged and who are completely toothless, then you have to greatly manage your expectations about what's going to come.
Well, I think the problem is that we are at a critical point in history, and I think that, and I'm going to speak to Congressman Ron DeSantis about this, that releasing that FISA application, if the affiant is Peter Strzok, then the whole thing comes falling down. But let me ask you quickly,
That's right.
What's going to happen on Tuesday in Alabama?
Well, I think that there are a lot of grassroots voters and independents who are going to have to make a cost-benefit calculation. And I think that in his speech yesterday that President Trump laid it out. And I think that most voters are going to make a responsible decision based on the information they know. And I think the bottom line is that Roy Moore is going to win that election.
Michelle Malkin, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
You bet.
All right. And joining me now, former Trump campaign manager and co-author of the new book, Let Trump Be Trump, Corey Lewandowski, our friend. First of all, congrats on the book. Great party the other night, Corey. You know, last night, I have to tell you, last night I hosted Hannity, and I'm watching the president, and I'm saying to myself, with all of the lunacy that is spinning around him, he is still Donald Trump, and he can still make magic.
You know, Judge, he was the best last night, out on the campaign trail, talking directly to the American people, reminding them of what he's done, calling out the fake news, story after story after story, holding people accountable. This is what America loves. He is bold, he is brash, and he is getting things done. That's why he's the president.
Well, there's no question about it. And, you know, your book, Let Trump Be Trump, if someone hasn't had a chance to buy it yet, I'm sure it makes a great Christmas gift. There's a plug for you, Corey. What would you say is the thing about the president that maybe you and I know that most people don't know?
He is so gracious, Judge. He is so helpful to people's families. All the things he does without the fanfare. He is so magnanimous in private. When I spend so much time next to him on the campaign trail, and I outline it every time. Corey, is your family okay? Is there anything we can do to make it better for you? Can I call your wife and make sure everything's fine? And he always thinks of other people. And when you're on his team, whether you've been there a day or 20 years, you're on the team 100%, and he is so gracious with everything he has.
Yeah, there's a tremendous loyalty there that I think a lot of Americans don't see, and because he's kind of in the political realm, you know, they may attribute to politics. But I have to tell you, I have never seen such resistance to a president in my life, and I'm no spring chicken, Corey. What do you attribute that to?
Well, look, Judge, this is the deep state at its very worst. It's the holdovers. It's the crooked FBI agents. Look, I do not understand. I'm not an attorney. I don't understand how we do not have an open and active investigation into the former director of the FBI, Jim Comey. He lied under oath. He gave out information to the public that he had obtained while he was an FBI agent. That is a crime. How is it not an investigation into this person and the people who work for him? We take one of his guys and we ship him to the HR department? You mean the philanderer who's having an affair with another woman in the department? In corporate America, he would have been fired. Give me a break, Judge.
But, Corey, can't you see the irony in that? I mean, the guy's having an affair. They send him to HR, which is where people go, where you punish them for having affairs. I mean, you know, it's crazy.
It's amazing. It's only the government. Only the government can get away with this, right?
What should happen to Jeff Sessions?
Look, we need Jeff Sessions to be tough. He has to step up and bring charges against Jim Comey or open an investigation.
What now? He's been there almost a year. What now? Come on, Corey, hit it.
Look, Judge, he's been there. He has been there. But what he needs to do is he needs to start. Look, I think he opens an investigation into Clinton. We still do not have answers on Uranium One, on that tarmac conversation.
But he said on November,
on the FBI.
Corey, stop. He said on November 13th, we're going to consider looking at all of this Uranium One. Well, you know what? It's December 8th today or something like that. And the bottom line is you don't need a month to look at whether or not something should be looked at. So,
Judge, I don't want to. I want action. I'm so tired of politicians telling me they got to do something.
What do we do to Jeff Sessions?
Jeff,
what should happen?
Look,
come on, Corey.
Look, what Jeff needs to do, and you know this, he needs to get tough. He needs to continue to crack down on the MS-13 gangs, but he needs to rid our government of those bad guys.
Politics, Corey.
I'm with you, Judge. I'm with you, Judge, and he has to go after those crooked FBI agents and the former FBI agents, and he needs to bring justice. Well, he needs to, and if he can't do it, let's get somebody who can.
All right, Rod Rosenstein, he apparently is in charge of a lot of these investigations that Jeff has recused himself from. Do you have faith in him?
You know, I don't know Rod at all. I've never met him. I don't know how he ended up in the position he's in, and I still wonder what his relationship is with Jim Comey and those guys, because it's my understanding, like so many others, there's been a relationship between these guys. And I get very concerned when that happens.
They're part of the same club, drink at the same watering hole. Corey Lewandowski, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, and street justice still ahead tonight. But next, it's a potent panel primed to throw punches. CPAC Chairman Matt Schlapp, Democracy for America's Neil Soroka, grab some popcorn, get a glass of water. The panel does battle next.
They took this fraudster from ABC. They suspended him for a month. They should have fired him for what he wrote. He drove the stock market down 350 points in minutes, which, by the way, tells you they really liked me, right? When you think of it. And you know what he cost people? And I said to everybody, get yourself a lawyer and sue ABC News. Sue him.
President Trump rallying the base against the dreaded fake news. Let's get right to it with my political panel for the night. CPAC Chair, Republican strategist Matt Schlapp, and Democrat for America Communications Director Neil Soroka. All right, Democracy for America. Yeah. All right, guys, you know what's interesting about this? The president, in a unique way, says it's time for consequences with the fake media. And Neil, I'll start with you. This week we saw 4 different lies, clarifications, corrections from ABC, Brian Ross, CNN, Reuters, The Washington Post, and WAPO tonight. WAPO. What's going on, Neil?
Well, I don't feel the need to explain the media, but I guess what I'd say is this, like, the president has well over 2,000 lies that he's made over the course of his presidency, and it hasn't even been a year yet. So the idea of this guy having the temerity to go after people for misstatements and corrections is just ludicrous.
Okay.
I mean, we have a guy who has no semblance of the truth. This is a guy who thinks that he won the majority of votes when that wasn't the case. He's obsessed
he never said he won the majority of votes. But anyway, Matt,
Judge,
go ahead,
that's just not true.
Matt,
okay, so
right
not true. That's
Matt,
fake
I think
news.
it's very important to remember that we elect presidents on electoral votes, and that was a landslide.
Neil, I'm going to cut your mic. One at a time, please.
Wouldn't be surprised.
The other thing, Neil, Neil, is when you say the president lied 2,000 times, I'd like you to make the citation of the organization, because these fact-checking organizations that Facebook and other media companies are using are funded by George Soros.
It's the Washington Post that's doing it.
Yes. Oh, Jeff Bezos. Sorry. Okay, yeah, I got my wrong left-wing billionaire. And the fact is this. The media is trying to prosecute a case. The media is trying to prosecute a case against Donald Trump. And the fact is they're getting the facts wrong, and the American people are watching.
Donald Trump gets multiple facts wrong each day. The man can't open his mouth without telling a lie. So the idea that you're going to sit here and criticize the media for trying to fact check him is just nuts.
Cite your source, Neil. When you say he lies 5 times.
Washington Post has a live tracker of the lies and misstatements that Donald Trump has made since he became president.
So all I will tell you, Neil, this might come as a shock to you, but the Washington Post has tried everything they could to get Hillary Clinton to be the president of the United States.
Okay. All right,
Their coverage is skewed.
Do you not understand the difference between the editorial board and reporters?
Neil, just tonight, the Washington Post reporter was caught in a lie. Just tonight, and all the lies this week. Excuse me.
About crowd sizes, Judge Jeanine. Judge, the president lied about crowd sizes.
Neil.
Judge.
Just tonight, it's all anti-Trump. That's the point. The mainstream media is all anti-Trump.
Oh, here we go again.
No.
The incessant whining about the media is why this president has one of the lowest approval ratings in history of polling.
Which is also fake news. The fact is
they got
again.
Everything that doesn't work out for you is fake.
Neil, let me talk. I'll let you talk. How about that?
Great.
Here's the fact. The American people know, they look at the polls, over 80% of the people in these major media outlets assign their political allegiance with the Democratic Party. They vote for Democrats. This is revealed in poll after poll. If you go to Pew or any of these major polling outfits, it is absurd for you to come on this show and try to intimate that these media outlets like the Washington Post are somehow balanced. Their politics are left-wing. Neil, get honest.
Okay, let's move on, guys. Let's talk about the fact that you've got these hearings in Washington, and nothing seems to get done. That's part of my frustration tonight in my opening statement.
Right.
If there is a two-tiered justice system in this country, and there is no one who is monitoring that, then what are we? A banana republic? Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, no, Judge, I listened to your statement, and I completely agree with you. I think that all the criticisms against the FBI are valid. Look, I served with Jim Comey. I worked with him. Everybody keeps saying he's a Republican. Everything I know about Jim Comey is that his politics are left as well, and that he politicized the investigation against Hillary Clinton from the very beginning. I don't know why he's not under investigation. I don't know why he's not having to testify and having to face legal charges. And I think the fact that, look, Jeff Sessions has got to get a handle on this, and I think his biggest problem is he picked a career bureaucrat to be his number 2 at DOJ. I think he ought to solve that immediately. I think we need Brian Benchkowski in to be in charge of the criminal division and potentially a higher post as Deputy Attorney General.
You know what, Neil, let me ask you a question. When Jim Comey was in the FBI, the president was not under investigation. But as soon as he was fired, he leaked information to a friend to send to the New York Times so there would be a special counsel appointed. Isn't that somewhat dishonest, if not illegal?
What in God's name are we talking about right now?
God's name?
We are living in a parallel...
God's name?
Yeah. We are living in a parallel universe where you're obsessed with this controversy. Meanwhile, the president's national security advisor just admitted to crimes in court and is now going to flip on the president. The fact that you guys right now are obsessed with this nonsense is just nuts.
Brian Ross was suspended for lying about that.
I understand that you want to change the subject from the ongoing investigations in this White House.
Go back to Comey.
The president's willingness to push
to my question. Go back to my question, Neil.
What question? Your question is a non-question.
It is a real question.
Neil, Go ahead,
it's a real question. It's a real question, and you need some eggnog. The fact is this, which is Jim Comey would not give the information to Congress when they asked for it, but he could leak it to his friend at a fancy university who then could leak it to the press. And the fact is, Jim Comey has helped to prosecute a case against Donald Trump. He could be implicit in this whole investigation on the dossier by which the Hillary Clinton campaign spent millions of dollars to work with Putin's friends to find dirt on the president. Let's talk about the issues.
It's nuts.
I am not nuts.
You're
Neil.
nuts. You are nuts.
I am not nuts.
You are nuts.
Wow.
This argument is nuts. It is not based in fact, and it is an attempt to distract
You're
people
calling me
from
a
the
liar,
real
and that is
guys.
beyond the pale.
Gee, I'd like
I don't
to
think I
watch
called
this
you a
a
liar,
little
sir.
more.
I didn't call
Match
you a
slap,
liar.
Neil Soroka. Thank you. He was front and center this week when the FBI director appeared on Capitol Hill, and tonight we're going to talk to him. GOP Congressman Ron DeSantis joins me next. We'll get into that and more as justice rolls on in a moment.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Marianne Rafferty. 6 major wildfires still burning in Southern California at this hour, and experts are saying a high fire risk is expected to last into January. Nearly 800 homes have been destroyed so far. 270 square miles have been scorched. Thousands of people have been evacuated. Governor Jerry Brown surveyed the Ventura fire damage today and said firefighting at Christmas time is very odd and unusual, but added it could become the norm. And firefighters remain on the scene of a small plane crash in San Diego. In a San Diego neighborhood, 2 people on board the plane were killed. Officials not sure if anyone was inside the home at the time of the crash. One witness there said they were watching the plane circling and thought it might land on a nearby highway. We'll have more on this story as it develops. I'm Marianne Rafferty. Now back to justice with Judge Jeanine.
You weren't there during that time, but if they were getting this information from a political party and then using it for surveillance against an opposition party candidate, that's a problem. Do you agree that that would be a problem for the American people?
I do agree, Congressman, that any inappropriate use of the FISA process for political purposes is something that we should all be very concerned about and take very seriously.
That's FBI Director Christopher Wray getting grilled on the Hill by my next guest, Congressman Ron DeSantis, who is fighting for the truth the American people deserve to know. Congressman DeSantis joins me live on the phone. Okay, so we couldn't get you to a studio. Congressman, we appreciate your being here. Did you get any answers that day when you sat and Christopher Wray appeared before you?
Not what we had hoped for, Judge. There's a number of pieces of evidence that Congress needs to have access to, starting from the role of this guy, Peter Strzok, who got removed from Mueller's investigation. He was the lead agent for Hillary, conducted the interview of things like Cheryl Mills. I think he was involved in the dossier. We want to know what his role is, whether the FBI paid for the dossier, whether Strzok was involved in using the dossier to get surveillance. We got answers of none of those.
Okay, now, given that you did not get answers, and we've been asking questions for the better part of a year, the question now is, and you can understand the frustration of the American people, the question is, we don't want to keep with this every day, you know, let's ask another question, we want answers. So, let's talk about contempt. Senator Grassley, chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, has sent 3 letters to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. And Rod Rosenstein has not answered any of them about Andrew McCabe and the FBI and the investigations of him by the DOJ, by the Inspector General, by the Office of Special Counsel, EEOC. And what do you do to get answers from Rosenstein?
Well, he's going to come before the House Judiciary Committee on Wednesday, and it's my belief that if he's not willing to produce those answers, if he's not willing to produce some of the information that we've been asking about now for months, then Congress needs to hold him in contempt. You can't just thumb your nose at the American people and not produce documents and not produce witnesses that Congress is entitled to and think you're just going to get away with it.
All right. Christopher Wray did not answer a lot of the questions, especially a question from Jim Jordan regarding whether or not Peter Strzok was the affiant on that application for the FISA warrant. If that were the case, of course, then there is a disaster for this nation where the FBI is getting involved in a presidential campaign with a fake dossier to destroy an opposing political party. So we didn't get an answer from Christopher Wray when the truth is he didn't have a legal reason to prevent us from finding out who signed that affidavit for the warrant. All right? What do we do to Christopher Wray?
Classified.
Right.
It is not classified. It's not sources and methods. There are some interesting information about what may be in that affidavit, but we weren't even asking about that. We were just asking about, was Strzok the affiant, and then did he use information gleaned from the dossier? Very simple question. So Devin Nunes, who's been doing a great job, he has warned both the FBI director and Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, that they're walking into potential contempt of Congress.
All
and
right.
I told the FBI director that myself. I said, your answers
listen,
aren't acceptable.
I have a short period of time left.
Do that.
Congressman, Christopher Wray, head of the FBI, will refuse to give you information. Rosenstein, I believe, is going to refuse to give you information. Are you, and do you have permission of the leadership, Paul Ryan, to hold Rosenstein in contempt if he appears in Congress and does not give you the answers that you want?
Yes, so I spoke, Jim Jordan and I spoke with the Speaker. He correctly says we deserve this information. He wants the information. If we can get that before the hearing, great. But if not, he is absolutely prepared to authorize a contempt citation against the Deputy Attorney General. And just think about that, being held in contempt. Eric Holder, I think, was the only other high government official who's been held in contempt, in the last many years.
But Congressman, nothing happened to Eric. He was held in contempt. We want a contempt, if that is deserved, and then a sanction for contempt. Anyway, Ron DeSantis, Congressman, we'll have you on next weekend to hear what happens. Thank you.
Thanks, Judge. Have a good one.
And what's the most outrageous thing you heard this week? Michael Tamaro is next, and we'll run down our list. Don't go away. The Republicans are on the verge of a huge tax bill victory, and Democrats, well, they aren't taking it all that well. Take a listen to Nancy Pelosi talking about it this week.
No, it is the end of the road. This healthcare, the debate on healthcare is life, death. This is Armageddon. This is a very big deal. The only reason it isn't the end of the world is because America is a great country. And the greatness of America and the fact that God is always with us is what gives us hope.
Armageddon. And that's just one of the most outrageous things I heard this week. Joining me now to talk about it all is Michael Tamaro, host of In the Foxlight.
Yes, Judge Jeanine.
Is it Armageddon?
It's always Armageddon with these guys. With this group, it's always, especially when it comes to Republicans. Republicans are always Nazis, and it's always Armageddon. She's like Janet Leigh in Psycho when that curtain opens up and she sees a Republican. She's in that perpetual state.
Yeah, but Janet Leigh was right. Somebody did have a knife in that, didn't they?
Well, here's the thing when it comes to Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
She's not afraid of this bill not working. She's afraid that this bill is going to work and unleash the animal spirits of this country and have the economic engines fire on all cylinders. We've had 4.1 unemployment, the lowest in 17 years. More importantly, the labor participation rate is ticking up, trending up for the first time in a long time.
It's unbelievable. It's all good stuff.
It's all good stuff.
It's not Armageddon. All right, let's move on because there's a lot of great lines we have.
What a week.
Then we had Bernie Sanders, and I think we have sound on that one.
Let me take it a little step further. We have a president of the United States who acknowledged on a tape, widely seen all over this country, that he assaulted women. So I would hope that maybe the president of the United States might pay attention to what's going on and also think about resigning.
Crazy Bernie. I mean, can you really take seriously a guy who looks like he belongs in the balcony of the Muppet Show? I mean, here's the thing. He wants Donald Trump to resign because he wants to run in 2020, and he knows he can't go up against someone like Donald Trump. He'd rather run against some milquetoast Republican.
But you know what's interesting, Michael? I didn't hear Bernie Sanders say anybody should resign other than Donald Trump.
Oh, it's always so, of course. Of course.
All right, listen. Then we're going to go to Chelsea Handler. Now, she is... it's on the screen up there. Her Twitter handle, she says, just evacuated my house. It's like Donald Trump is setting the world on fire, literally and figuratively. Stay safe, everyone. Dark times.
I mean, you're evacuating your house and you're thinking about Donald Trump?
No, he is setting the world on fire, literally. Is she nuts?
Yes, she is the CEO of the unhinged Hollywood movement right now, and that's Chief Expletive Officer.
Oh,
She's had one foul tweet after another when it comes to Donald Trump.